Hey BookTube, I'm back for another video. So this video is going to be about my least favorite reads of the year. And to put it into context, what I mean by my least favorite reads are not the reads that I thought were objectively bad or terrible. They were the ones that I did not care for the most. I read a lot of good books this year. I read a number of meh books, just books that I didn't care for either way, or I read some books that I either disliked or I had particular reasons for not enjoying them. And so I want to share at least the top 5 of my least favorite books of the year. So starting from 5 and going to number 1, and just explaining why I disliked them. And spoiler alert, 4 of them are nonfiction and 1 of them is fiction. So, and for the fiction one, I'm going to be spoiling it, mostly because that's why I disliked it, or just to describe why I disliked it. So, we're going to start with number 10. Number 10 was this book here, Shrinking Violets. I cannot bring it any closer because this e-reader immediately freezes as soon as I unplug it. So you see it's plugged in here. So it's Shrinking Violets by Joe Moran, and the subtitle is The Secret Life of Shyness. And I wanted to like this book. I'm a shy person. Even the quote at the very beginning that I've read before in my favorite quotes tag really resonated with me. But most of the book, or actually the entire book, was just completely unfocused, completely trivial, I thought. It was not, I didn't consider it deep reflection on shyness at all. Large sections of the book followed celebrities who were considered shy and who tried to get out of social interactions, and not only did I not recognize most of the people that were talked about, I just didn't care about them. And it was basically almost like potted biographies of the shy side of certain people. And then he also tried to go into like the philosophy of shyness, which I thought he totally flubbed. He tries to make an argument that shyness is like this innate characteristic to one's personality, and to put it mildly, I disagree with that. I don't think shyness is like something to build an identity around, and I don't think shyness to begin with is an admirable thing. I don't think it's like a flaw, but I don't think it's something that you should want to keep, or that you should something that you want to hang your identity on. I think it should be something that you try to grow out of, and that's something that I've always tried to wrestle with. So, and yeah, so I thought that book was a book that I disagreed with, and I didn't think was a strong book just to begin with. So, moving on to number 4. Number 4, again, showing it on this e-reader here, if it will agree with me. Number 4. Let's see. There we go. So, number 4 is The Gods of Olympus by Barbara Graziosi. Barbara Graziosi, and it's called The Gods of Olympus, A History, which sounds very interesting. It's a tracking of the influence of the gods of Greece and Rome all the way to modern times, or at least somewhat modern times, and their influence and how people thought of them, which is a very interesting premise, a very promising premise. But the main issue with that book is that it's 200 pages. You can't write a book on the gods of Olympus, tracking their influence throughout history, in 200 pages. And so then the main flaw of that book is that it is very shallow throughout everything it talks about. Every single thing that she talks about in that book, I wish she went deeper, and I wish that book was 800 pages, 1,000 pages, and I would have gulped it up, but instead it's 200 pages, and for that reason it's very shallow. So only scratching the surface and in a very unsatisfying way. So I did not like that book. Number 3 is the very first book I've ever read from the Oxford A Very Short Introduction series. They do fairly uniform type books. Actually, here's an example of what they look like. This is a one I have not read, but they all have the color, 2 different colors, or 3 different colors, and then that line going through them. And they're all short. They're between 100 and 200 pages. And the one I read was on my e-reader. It is, and it makes number 3 of my least favorite books of the year, and it's Beauty by Roger Scruton. Roger Scruton has written a few of these short introductions. He's got one on Immanuel Kant and Spinoza, and this is his one on beauty. And I thought it was very boring. Why it's number 3 on my list is because I thought that he is not only boring, but in a sense condescending on the subject, and I thought that he tries to make an argument which I had a hard time following, and I was being very attentive, but I thought that he was boring and incomprehensible at times, but almost like he was relishing in his incomprehensibility, but then also trying to show off how smart he was. And the thing is, I've read Roger Scruton before. And I've had no problem with his writing, but this one I just thought was a particularly bad book on a subject. And beauty is a very interesting subject, something that you can explore, and I can see why it would be hard to write an introduction. It'd be very subjective type of introduction. And he does have some strong stances on the idea of beauty. Beauty in art is basically what he's writing about here. But I did not care for this book. It was boring in the worst way, I think. Number 2 is another book I'm going to have to show on this e-reader. I wish I had some ability to show you the covers a lot better. But the number 2 of my least favorite books of the year is Study is Hard Work by William H. Armstrong. See if I can get it better. No, I can't. This is the cover that I'm going to have to show you. Study is Hard Work by William H. Armstrong. And the premise is very good. It's so the subtitle here, or at least the description on the side, says, "The most accessible and lucid text available on acquiring and keeping study skills through a lifetime." And I'll give him that he does deliver on that promise. There's a lot of very basic and interesting ideas on study in that book, but there was 2 main problems with that work. One, again, is that he was boring. He's not incomprehensible like Roger Scruton, but he is very boring, but it's almost intentionally so, because it's like, in order to read that book, you've got to study it, and the book is like 200 pages. It's very simply written, but you have to study the book on the author's terms, and he also creates his own idea of what studying should be and what it should look like, which can be helpful. To some people, he goes into a lot of structure. But another issue, I thought the book was very dated. It was originally written in the 60s and then revised or updated in the 90s. And I think his idea of studying is very much a pre-digital age type studying, which is not something you can fault the author for, I know. Um, but I thought the book was almost religious in its uh, emphasis on studying habits, where it seemed like if you don't study the way the author says you should, it means that there's something wrong with you or that there's something flawed about you. And I'm okay with that kind of criticism if it's warranted. But I don't think it's warranted in this case, because if I don't think there's a single person in history who has followed all of the precepts that he puts in that book. And I don't think it's possible. Like, you would be a total robot if you did, and life would have no joy and no meaning to it. And I wish he would acknowledge that. And it's very, so I found it a very inhuman book in that sense. But I can see how it could be helpful to some people, providing structure and whatnot. I I didn't like the reading experience, and I didn't like the author's presence all that much. So that is why it is number 2 on my least favorite books of the year. And the number one is a novel that I read this year. I'm just pulling it up here again. And here it is. It is book number 4 in Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series. So there was a period when I was reading through these novels one after another, and I included The Wizard of Earthsea in an honorable mention as one of my favorite books of the year. And I really, really like that book. But as I went through the series, my like for each book got less and less. And number 4 just did it for me. I had enough of the series. I seriously disagreed with a lot of the choices that Ursula K. Le Guin did in that 4th novel. The novel is called Tehanu. Tehanu. So let me follow the series here. So we have the coming of age story of our main character in The Wizard of Earthsea. The name of his name escapes me at this moment, but he's a prominent figure. And then in the 2nd book, we move to another figure. We move to this girl in this very strictly religious temple type area, and it shows us a lot of the religion of the specific group of peoples on this island, and their very fanatic religious devotion, which is very harmful, but because this girl was basically taken from her parents to be this priestess, and it's almost unwillingly. And then it's called the 2nd novel is The Tombs of Atuan, I believe is how you pronounce it. And I thought it was pretty good, but because it's about this one of the later adventures that the original wizard in book 1 ends up going on, and I thought it was really good. It was a very much a different approach, but it was still a good approach, and I quite enjoyed it. But then we get book number 3. Book number 3 was a strange book. We get a different side of our wizard here, and one that was not very likable, I thought. But he's still recognizably the wizard that we've known and come to love. But then in book 4, Tehanu, she takes those two characters, so the wizard from book 1 and the girl from book 2, and brings them together in a very domestic setting, and completely destroys the magic that the first 3 books had on me. And at this point I was just done, because they're both older now. The girl, she's middle-aged, and the wizard is now an older man, and he's lost his powers. He's become basically emasculated, and he doesn't know what to do about this. He's only known what it's like to be a wizard, and now he has to deal with what it's like to be an ordinary old man. And he's very much emasculated. And Tahanu herself, she's like a feminist figure, but not a very interesting one, or not a well-written one. And they end up hooking up, the wizard and this woman, and I just thought that was just incomprehensibly bad handling of these characters. And I noticed that she had a lot of pushback with that novel. And an issue too is that The Wizard of Earthsea, it's 6 books in total, and they're basically in 2 different periods. So the first 3 books are in the 70s, I believe. But then Tahanu begins the second trilogy, where the first book is Tahanu, and then the second book is a short story collection, and then the third book is The Other Wind or something like that, which I have not read. I've not read the short story collection or the last novel, because I really don't want to. And they were written in the 90s, when she goes back to this world, and when she had like this feminist coming of age as a science fiction and fantasy writer during this period, because after she wrote she was writing her famous science fiction novels as she was writing her original 3 books of the Earthsea series. But Tahanu, I thought, was just a terrible mishandling of the characters. The one thing I liked about the book is that it includes this horribly burnt girl who was basically left by gypsies or something. And she's going through life knowing that her parents tried to kill her. That's why she's burnt. Now she's being raised by the woman main character, and has to deal with that as a young child. And she becomes like an important character at the very end, and I thought it was really well done. But that was not enough to compensate for how much I disliked her handling of these 2 characters. And the one thing that I dislike the most is that the structure of the book itself is not that bad. If she had taken those 2 characters that we know and love and taken them out of this book and had the same kind of middle-aged woman and the same kind of man, but not characters that have a lore attached to them already, I think this book would have been much better. If we had characters that are new to us, so this middle-aged woman is a new character, and the old man isn't a man who's been emasculated, but maybe he hadn't been a wizard. Maybe he's been emasculated in a different way. I don't know. But just not the wizard that we know through the first 3 books, and now he's completely different, and now they're hooking up, and I don't know. It was it left a very unsavory taste in my mouth after reading this book, and so I decided not to continue. I doubt I'll read the next 2 books in the series this year, unless I really want to, but I don't see it at this point. If I want to read some more Ursula K. Le Guin, I've got a lot of short story collections, and I've got a few of her novels that I could read instead. That is where I'll be going with that. And that is not to say that Tahanu is poorly written or anything. It's not. It's Ursula K. Le Guin. She's a very good writer, so this is still well written and engagingly written. It's just that I didn't like the book itself. So those are my least favorite books of 2025. And I'll leave it there for now, and we'll see you next time, Book 2.